Welcome, dear viewers and all seekers of light. This video is part 5 of a series which is investigating the life and activities and words of Dr. John Newbrough, reportedly the channel for the New Age Bible entitled Oahspe. The overall purpose is to set the record straight because a lot of misinformation has been presented over the years because that was the goal of John Newbrough, to deceive, and his followers basically assisted him. And anyway, there is factual evidence to support what actually happened, and that's what these videos are about. Part 5 involves the confirmation that John Newbrough personally wrote some of the texts of Oahspe and presented it as channeled from the angelic heavens. So this is basically a hacking of Oahspe, and it has harmed the book. Now, some would say that I'm attacking Oahspe. I'm not. I'm trying to set Oahspe free from negative influences. In a number of ways, while Newbrough published the book, even though Oahspe is the greatest single book ever published in the history of the world as far as spiritual enlightenment, it was saddled with misconceptions and deceptions and even darkness in some places because Newbrough wanted to turn it into a means of control for a new religion that he would be the founding prophet for, and all the glory and power thereby would go to him. Therefore, Oahspe has never attracted millions of followers. I mean, there's several thousand. I don't know how I would calculate the whole history of the Oahspe movement from the 1880s to the present. I mean, what is that? It's like 140, 150 years. But certainly, it's less than 200,000 or 300,000 people. I mean, that's over that great length of time. So at no time has it ever been well known or received that well. Reasons for this are several. First, Newbrough was a tyrant, and he interacted with people, and they ended up not liking him. He basically said everything as if he was the final word authority on everything, and he didn't treat people very kindly or well, and through his deceptions he was actually able to steal life savings of 50 different people. Very unfaithful of him. And a second point is the writings that he inserted into Oahspe, namely, especially, the book of Saphah. Well, let me put it this way. Saphah was channeled, but there might be 5% which was channeled that was in the published version, but most of it was his doing. And what happened was he instilled what looks like Masonic / witchcraft types of rites. People look at that and they go, man, I'm not going to read this. This is garbage. This is dangerous. This is satanic even. So that's one problem with the book. I've seen it with my own eyes. People just dropped it no way this is ridiculous. I'm not going to read this book. Another problem was he set up lodges and churches that were cult-oriented, where there would be a cult leader. And it's not so much in present day, but in the past, people died. They were killed. And I'll get to that part of history. Mostly the children who were under the care of the cult lodges that Newbrough had set up. That's not the topic for this video, but we will get to it. A third problem. So anyway, these cults influence, basically, people act bad. They want to control you. You're their servant or slave, and they're the master. That is not going to make a movement grow. No. And it actually, the ideas contradict Oahspe's core principles. That was the other problem. Big contradictions. Oahspe was written so that there would no longer be a need for churches, holy books, or priests, masters who controlled their congregations. It was basically to set people free to directly communicate, pray to the Creator directly, and thereby issue in a new era of peace and goodwill on earth, because the Creator is the most perfect, all highest being, omnipotent being. So if we get clear connections, good things can happen, and they would happen. Oahspe, as constructed by Newbrough, hasn't completely stopped this from happening, of course, no. But it has turned people away, and it has misdirected some of the readers so that they did not fulfill the basic purposes for which Oahspe was channeled in the first place by the higher angels. A final problem is, because of the dark spirits from the lower realms, generally Masonic, these spirits have hung around. I mean, the writings are in the book. I mean, that's what happens with all the great world's religions texts. You read the text, and those words, which were inspired by the spirits of those realms, whether it was Christian, Islamic, or whatever, as soon as you start reading those words, you're connected to them, and they will come and be part of your life. And it isn't necessarily always bad, but they generally have been. And although that has been less true as time has gone on, and the major religions have reformed themselves to be more universal in nature. But in Newbrough's case, the spirits are dark, and they've caused a lot of conflicts between other readers of Oahspe, or just, again, push the same principles of indoctrination to a cult leader, and ignoring the basic goals of Oahspe, which is direct communication with the Creator without a priest or holy master, in service of good works to the poor and afflicted, and learning to abnegate self to help others and love one another. I'm not saying that everyone who adheres to Saphah is somehow necessarily a terrible person or anything. I'm just saying they'd be a better person, and the movement of the Oahspe path would be farther along. There'd be more attuned and accepting, and or at least seeking to fulfill the precepts, the high precepts of the Book of Oahspe. So, I mean, of course, there have been some very questionable persons of a low, dark nature, and I'll get into the history of that in later videos. But again, I'm not condemning people just because they read it, and you're not going to fall into a spirit possession just because you read Oahspe or look at the pages of Saphah for a few minutes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying anyone who commits to the ideas in Saphah, whether it's the symbols, the strange symbols, or the strange rites, and basically holds it in high esteem, you're going to connect with the dark spirits, and they're not going to lead you to a good place. Again, good people will be less good. Bad people are more dark, I should say, will become more dark. So it's all a matter of a continuum of sorts. It was suggested to me by a friend that I had my suspicions, so I took my friend's suggestion, and he identified a European authorship identification software called Clarin. And this was in 2019. I have a master's degree in linguistics, so I understood the software when I was trying to use it. I understand the components of language and how they interrelate and basically create meaning. Scientific studies have proven that this software can identify text written by an author at over a 99% success rate. Okay, that's an almost certainty. And what I decided to do is take all the books of Oahspe, the 50 books, and all of Newbrough's writings. And Newbrough did write books and other materials outside of Oahspe, and throw them into the software analysis to see what the results would be. If I can explain this a little bit, the software examines the components in a systematic fashion. It is basically analyzed based on how real language is created by authentic writers according to their authorship patterns. It's all done through scientific mathematical algorithms. So there are relational patterns textually that are shared between different texts which are by the same author. Okay, we call these authorship vectors, and you'll see them in the results where it can be ascertained mathematically, scientifically, that an author was using, that author continues to use the same kind of linguistic components in their writings. So that what some of these would be parts of speech, punctuation, sentence density and length, the kinds of words and the length of sentences, how long they are, how by density that refers to the basic level of the vocabulary, as well as the packing of nouns and verbs into phrasing. Okay, so basically the first question is, does this work at all? Does Clarence work at all? In order to confirm this, I took 3 authors from an era not that different from Newbrough's, the second half of the 1800s, and I chose Jack London, Lewis Carroll, and Robert Louis Stevenson. I took 4 books from each author, and I had the software compare them. You can see the names of the books, and I'm sure many of you know or have read these books sometime in your life. If you haven't, it doesn't matter. Each one of these authors has 4 books that will be put into this test analysis to see if Clarence authorship software actually works at all. The results are given in this chart, and voila, they were all correctly identified. The green group books were all written by Lewis Carroll. The group blue books were all written by Robert Louis Stevenson. The group black books were all written by Jack London. So the result of the study, the test case study, was Clarence identified the books 100% grouping the same author and with his actual books correctly. So the conclusion is that Clarence, with our own eyes, we can see that it works. Okay, so then what? Well, as I said before, take all the books of Oahspe, and in fact, I also included unpublished Oahspe. As I've told in an earlier video, Newbrough suppressed the publication of some originally channeled books from Oahspe, something he had no right to do. I mean, it wasn't that many pages, and there were some excellent ideas in these unpublished texts. Anyway, the published and the unpublished originally channeled books of Oahspe are going to be inputted into the authorship software. In addition, I'll also have writings of Newbrough's inputted into the software. Newbrough wrote some books, more than a few. The Fall of Fort Sumter, of Love or Love and War, The Lady of the West, Kindergarten Homes. Well, in Kindergarten Homes, it was actually published under Mrs. Elizabeth Thompson, who basically funded Oahspe. And there was another book about drinking, which I learned about too late, which same thing happened also. By drinking, I mean there was a book which was basically advocating for prohibition of alcohol. And Newbrough put it under Ms. Thompson's name, but it's obvious he wrote it. You can tell from the style. This is one case of a deception by Newbrough. I think the whole purpose for Kindergarten Homes and the Prohibition book, they were included, they were written under Miss Thompson because it was just easier to get money from the general public through her. She's a semi-famous person in New York circles, social circles, society. So I think that was the only thing involved in this. But it's still deception. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Clarence Saphah will analyze this to see if it was Miss Thompson or was Newbrough. Okay, so here's a list of all the originally published Oahspe, the unpublished Oahspe, and Newbrough's writings. So we've got 8 different texts from Newbrough, and we've got 5 unpublished Oahspe texts, and anyway, about 40, 50 from the originally published Oahspe. The results came out into 3 groups, as you can see before in this image. It might be good to pause the video at this point and just look at them, read over which books fell into which group. Green was basically is one group, and I would look at this as pretty much originally channeled and published in that state. The black books are the books which you could say were Newbrough's books, convincingly, scientifically proven as books Newbrough wrote. And all of his books came in this group, and as well as did 2 books from the published version, Oahspe, Jehovah's Kingdom on Earth, and Saphah. Again, I'll repeat, there was an original Saphah, but who knows what happened. Newbrough pretty much trashed it and put his own stuff in there, the rites and the strange symbols. Okay? And we'll analyze Saphah very fully, so you're going to see just why it was a bad idea to do what Newbrough did, since it would turn away a lot of readers and would also misrepresent and actually contradict Oahspe's basic teachings. At any rate, it's there. I mean, even if we didn't have the software, you could read Saphah and say, you know what, this idea contradicts what Oahspe says, what it states. What the heck is going on? Or look at this incredibly vulgar picture, or this vulgar idea. Why is that? That is not spiritual. And why are false gods being promoted? What's going on here? Well, so, like I said, if you apply some deduction power to Saphah, you wouldn't need this authorship software to know something was strange and wrong. Okay, and the third group, the blue group, these are books which apparently they're very close to the original condition, but Newbrough has some influence on them. He changed some wording, so it's not totally clear that, it isn't clear that he wrote the whole thing, but it looks like he changed some of it. And there are some sentences in these books which I would say probably go against Oahspe's teachings. There are some racist sentences in some of these books which are not good at all, and we need to take a closer look at that later. But essentially they're there. And again, I'm not saying that what Newbrough created, published Oahspe, it didn't mean that, oh, now Oahspe is worthless. You can't look at it. Just forget it. No one should look at it. No one should study it. No one should read it. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is the potential good, the potential high knowledge that Oahspe presented to the world in its original state has been diminished significantly in some cases. For the discerning reader who can basically block out the bad to get to the good, it's probably not going to change their overall experience of Oahspe. They just figured out what to ignore. But that's not the truth. But that cannot be done by everybody, because a lot of people look at it and say, this is witchcraft, this is strange, this is a bad idea. I don't want anything to do with this book. And that's what happened, because since Oahspe is one of the greatest books ever written, if it hadn't been marred, it would have reached millions of people instead of, just a fraction of what the number of people that could have been met. So again, I believe Oahspe is great. And again, I'm not saying what Newbrough did destroyed the message of Oahspe. I'm saying it wounded it, poisoned it. And a lot of people took the bad stuff in it and ran with it and did some bad things with it. And I'll recount those histories too. It's happened even into these current days. Not as much as it did because Newbrough's influence was stronger, 100 years ago or 120 years ago. And the spirits that are attached from the lower realms have been probably, to some degree, their influence has been dampened. But certainly it's still there. And the book would be flying off the shelves except Newbrough's toxic hacking of the great text of Oahspe. Okay, so anyway, there were 3 groups, and basically this page we're looking at, I've just basically re-summarized what I've just told you. Again, it might be good to pause the video and just take a look at it. Group green, group blue, group black. And, well, that was a summary. This next page shows the actual books. If you're having trouble reading the chart, here are the lists of books specifically. And if I had to go back to the chart, I would add one thing. Those numbers are the linguistic vectors or units, the components of language which had correlations of where scientifically the evidence is the same author wrote. It's an abstract number, and it's probably really complicated to get into at this point, but at any rate, the colors, the grouping of the colors shows the same author. That was the conclusion of the software anyway. Okay, so 3 groups. Green, which the original channeled, blue, which somewhat altered but original text, and finally the black group is books which have been conclusively identified as being authored by John Newbrough. And some of these are published works, openly published works by Mr. Newbrough, and some are books from Oahspe, namely Jehovah's Kingdom on Earth and Saphah. One interesting side note is that the green group ended up getting published separately, almost, not quite. There's some changes by the Denver Chava Fraternity of Faithers. And there was a Franklin White and his wife Clara White who lived in the Levitica portion, actually ran the Levitica portion in Shalam, and they somehow decided to publish Oahspe, but instead the green group of Oahspe. And that's an interesting point. I mean, why did they do that? Why? And the only conclusion you can make, they did rename. They also, I don't think there's, I'm not saying they did a perfect publication of the original channel of Oahspe. I don't think that's what happened, because I mean the blue group, a lot of that is in the original channel. They didn't publish it at all, so I'm not. But it is interesting they published the green books, which is basically conclusively from the original, the channeled work of Oahspe. Anyway, it's basically an implication that people who lived with the people of Shalam, who knew Holland, who talked to Newbrough, they knew something was going on. They knew something had gone on with the content of Oahspe and how it had been basically hacked or editorialized in a negative fashion. So take that for what it's worth. It's very interesting. I guess in the blue book, the blue group of books, you have knowledge, you have Aranathan, you have Saphah that was unpublished, you have the Zemers and the Prophet. All these books I've spoken of in a prior video, and the Saphah confirms, basically these were written, they were channeled. Undoubtedly, there were some changes, some fingerprints of Newbrough on these books where he changed them slightly. Okay, we're not saying that the blue groups are like somehow beyond, should not be accepted. That's not what's being said here. The blue books are also really good, but they were modified. They don't come out 100% clean. The green books did come out 100% clean. They were originally channeled. Okay, some conclusions are that this software put together all of Newbrough's personal writings correctly, and it put all the original Oahspe books together correctly. Even if there was some slight modification, these were identified as that as well. That's the blue root. Okay, so this is scientific proof. This isn't just some computer game that randomly threw these together. These are from scientists, linguistic scientists, language scientists, and it's been proven to be 99% accurate. And of course, we did our own test with 3 other authors, Jack London, Lewis Carroll, and Robert Louis Stevenson, and that came out 100% as well. See, the whole point of this is Oahspe has not spread across the world. People are not flocking to read it when they should be. It's just really good knowledge. But as long as people are turned away by the ugliness of Saphah, and I have to say, it's some of the very abhorrent, very weird ideas that are presented in it, of course people are just going to say, well, this is demonic, I don't want anything to do with this book. And that's what happens. Again, what I said before is still true. I am not saying that you can't read Oahspe even with Newbrough's hacking and not get a great experience out of it, a wonderful experience. What I'm saying is that most people are being denied the opportunity to benefit from Oahspe because Newbrough put basically garbage in it, very negative ideas which turn people away from it. Okay? So that's the whole point of all of this. And Oahspe needs to be republished without Newbrough's hacking as much as possible so that the book will be able to stand on its own without having contradictions and will only have a good message to communicate to the world as the Creator intended in the first place. So until that time, I hope everyone reads Oahspe and benefits from it. And I just say avoid, especially the Book of Saphah, avoid all the groups that are ordaining priests and ordaining holy masters who are going to teach you how you should live your spiritual path according to what they think. Oahspe is not about that. It's about, we still need to come together as a group and worship the Creator and commune with the angels and develop spiritual powers and blessings and prayers. And we need to work for the poor and the homeless and the orphans and anybody who's been disabled or needs special help. We're supposed to help those people. And yes, you're still supposed to love your family and friends and help them too. I mean, that's for sure, it's true. But everything will go better if the negative is gone. It'll be like a weight taken out of your mind, so that those who wish to truly understand how Oahspe, truly understand the messages of Oahspe as originally channeled, will be able to do this. Okay, I hope this video helps you understand the situation more clearly. The goal is to republish Oahspe, to edit out the hacks of Newbrough, and publish Oahspe in a clean 100%, as close as we can get 100% version of Oahspe. Thank you for listening. Much love and light to everyone. Thank you.